which would be movable, so I generated some divs. Div stands for Do It Victor. I'm just a humble midwife. Fixed. My first thought was calamari. You don't need to know complex programming. So I had an idea that could change modern text messaging apps forever. It wouldn't. An idea for a feature, but I had no idea how the UX of that feature would work. And I only had 8 hours to build a working proof of concept of this UX. The idea was to create a UX that would allow users to communicate the tone of voice of a text message. But how do you communicate a tone of voice with just text? Yes, Godfather's penis. Yes, Godfather's penis. Yes, Godfather's penis. Thanks God, this question was already answered by smart people. Researchers from Brazil did some tests on real people and proved that the tone of voice can be successfully communicated by varying the font weight in a word. The challenge that I needed to resolve was how can a user swiftly, easily and successfully f*** up their text with just one touch. To communicate a tone of voice, that is, of course. First I thought I'd quickly take a look at a couple of popular messaging apps of today. Telegram. WhatsApp. And here's the first problem that I saw. I couldn't see anything. I needed to design the UX that would allow expressing the tone of voice and emotion through text. But how can you do it if you can't see the text? Is there a reason why the text is so small? I have no idea. I may be missing something. Let me know in the comments. Fixed. Next. So, how do you swiftly f*** up the otherwise perfectly readable text with just one touch? My first thought was calamari. No, that was my second thought. My first thought was touch pressure. Start simple, change the font weight, use touch pressure. The stronger you press, the bolder characters below your finger get. But there was a problem. JavaScript. Wait, what? Why was I using JavaScript to build a prototype of a UX element of a mobile app? There were 2 reasons why I didn't use native code. Reason number 1. Cross-platform development. I'm a lazy fan of the idea of building a thing once and deploying it to multiple platforms like iOS, Android, BlackBerry, what. If I built this prototype in JavaScript, it could then be easily integrated to React Native. In fact, there is already an open source app based on the Telegram API, written in React Native and copying Telegram completely. And reason number 2, why wasn't I building this prototype using native code? A very simple one. I didn't know how to. I'm just a humble midwife who can roll in a hospital bed, toss a pregnant lady in it, plug her into the electricity, and maybe do some illegal scaffolding construction work on the side. I have no idea how to perform a sex-altering surgery, and if I attempted to do so in the 8 hours that I had for this task, it would have gone horribly wrong. So I had an idea to swiftly f*** up fonts using touch pressure. But there was a problem. JavaScript. It's not very good at picking up touch pressure, especially on various devices. And as a matter of fact, it can't do it at all. There is a property for the force of the touch in the touch move object, but it doesn't seem to work. And additionally, even if there was a way to pick up touch pressure with JavaScript, I wasn't quite sure that this was a good UX. I needed something quicker and something much more effortless for a user, and something with much less potential of causing a stroke in an elderly person. So I thought I'd draw a curve. And then I thought I'd draw another one. And then I thought, what the f*** am I doing? I didn't see the big problem in front of me. My thinking was maybe I could introduce additional UI elements in form of lines, which would be movable and would affect the which would be movable and affect the boldness of text below them. And then in terms of scaling in the future, different modes could be added to switch between different styling controls. One that controls boldness, another one that controls the size, another one that controls how stretched the words are, another one to control a baseline shift, and another one to control feeble minds of weak people. I actually think too many style variations would make a tonal information you're trying to convey much less readable. It's like speaking 5 different languages all at the same time. Like speaking 5 languages. But this very big problem with this UX was not that. The text messages are usually multi-line. So quite successfully, these UI elements that I've designed would clash between each other and create a wonderful UX and the UI mess. But I was running out of time and decided I would implement a technique that is called a Vietnamese grandmother substitution. No, that's sorry. And decided I would implement a technique known in the design world as thinking through making. Right, how do you build a curve using just CSS and nothing else? First I discovered something that I've never heard of called asymmetrical border radius in CSS, and quickly came to a conclusion that this was shit. Then, for a while, I considered using SVG, Satanic Venomous Gnome. And there was even this wonderful SVG library, which allowed you to control SVG with JavaScript very easily, and I had absolutely no intentions of using it. The implementation in React Native would be fiddly, it complicates the whole dev in general, and I had no idea how to make parts of the SVG curve affect characters below it. I needed a solution that would be really and truly dumb. So I thought I'd generate some divs. Div stands for Do It Victor, and it's an HTML element, basically a box, named after its inventor, Victor Cockburn Schmidt, who famously refused to invent it for a really long time. So I generated some divs, and then I generated more divs inside those divs, and then I made them change height depending on the touch position from their tops. Each div had a touch move event attached to it, so that whenever a finger swiped above it, it picked up the position relative to the top of the div and set its height relative to this position. This is exactly how Margaret Thatcher invented a waveform for the first car radio back in 1905, when she fell off the bicycle. Then I thought I'd put letters inside them and make them change the boldness depending on that position too. Not aligned how I planned initially, but almost. A dumb version that worked. Only, apart from the small problem, it didn't. It only worked on the desktop, and on the mobile the touch event was only picked up by the element you started touching first, and not by the others. And that's when I realized that the truly and utterly dumb thing was I realized that the text could have absolutely normal line spacing, and that you could still change the boldness with just one touch, without affecting multiple lines, and I didn't even need additional UI elements for it. I took the text and broke it into characters. Then I put each character in a separate container, so it can be referred to in the code. I put the text back together with each character now in a separate container. Added the touch move event to the whole page, and added the touch start event to record just 2 coordinates of where the page was touched first. I then added a function that loops through all the containers with characters whenever user touches the screen. Checks if a touch is happening over each specific character, and if it does, adjusts the font of that character depending on how high above or how low below it the touch is happening. And the event that records the first 2 coordinates of where a user touched the screen for the first time makes sure that only one line of text is affected with your touch, the line that you touched first. I also realized that you can't see shit below your finger, so I came up with this special device, allowing you to swiftly remove your fingers before interacting with the UI. I also have set the touch and added a pointer to show you what area is being affected whenever you touch. It's always good to give users options. So this whole thing made me think of the following 4 things. Number 1. Less is more. Sometimes the best UI can be no UI at all. Number 2. You don't need to know complex programming or math, or learn anything additional to what you already know to be able to prototype your ideas quickly. You just probably need to think creatively of how to use the tools that you already have to achieve the goal that you need. Number 3. Thinking through making. It could be a good technique for designing UX, because it allows you to test your ideas right away. Which begs the question, should more UX designers learn how to code? And finally, number 4. A regular opossum pumped with the helium gas to 35 psi does not seem to leave the ground. Other than that, the script that I wrote is a prototype of a UX of what I think could be a viable way of conveying emotion in a text, and it can be implemented in a Telegram-like app that uses React Native and is also open source. My script is also open source, the link is in the description, and the idea is royalty-free. Feel free to use this and also who is this? And there is also my other video about lesbian vampire killers, about how those scientists tried to conduct experiments on people regarding the tone of voice, and about how Queen Mother tried to help abused girl. Check it out. Subscribe, hit the bell, it helps supporting all those people around the world who accidentally hit the bells with their head, and see you soon.